Ladies and gentlemen, thank you as always for tuning into the channel. Guys, today we have a handful of news for you. The first couple are unfortunately going to be on the negative side, but luckily at the end of this, we are going to be looking at the grand picture of things with a lot of positive news and giving us a good outlook as to what we can expect for future years to come in the crypto space. So for starters, about 2 videos ago, we talked about Genesis and how they were having some issues and people were being very concerned if they were insolvent or not. Turns out yesterday, Genesis did file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the state of New York. This goes to show that right now is very uneasy times for the entire cryptocurrency space. So if you are using a lot of exchanges to hold your funds, really consider maybe doing otherwise. Now, I know it's not the easiest thing to do when it comes to having all of your funds on a hardware wallet and storing it under your mattress, but really consider having different avenues at least when it comes to holding your assets. You don't want to be all in on one platform. That's just naive and too dangerous right now with everything going on in the world. Of course, we have more companies with layoffs. Google, Microsoft, and a few others announced mass layoffs across the board. I believe Google and Microsoft specifically were 12,000 employees, which of course for them, since they are such large conglomerates, is just a drop in the bucket. But that's still 24,000 individuals right there. And unfortunately, I think it's still way too early to see these sort of layoffs cool down. If anything, a lot of these companies, what they're doing is they're laying off now because they see the outlook for the next year or two being quite rough for the overall economy. Obviously, we hope they're wrong. You know, that would be the best case for everyone. But it is good to always keep an eye out for what all these other companies are doing, whether they're crypto related or not, and see what they're doing so you can best position yourself for what's to come here in the future. Now, yes, Genesis did go bankrupt. As of now, we aren't hearing anything in regards to funds being locked up or anything like that. But of course, if you do have assets on that platform, it would be wise to get them off ASAP. And again, you know, if you are heavily involved in any other exchanges and you're not using those assets on the daily, it would be wise to consider getting a hardware wallet at least and moving them over to something like that. If you want something that's a little more, little faster, you could definitely consider software wallets. There's a lot of great software wallets out there. There's Crypto.com's DeFi wallet. There's Engine wallet, which is a phenomenal one. There's of course MetaMask, which is probably the most popular on desktop. So there's lots of options out there that don't require any money up front, but of course you want to make sure you keep that private key offline, somewhere super safe, away from the elements and all that jazz. Aside from that, the SEC, this is actually good news, so I should have saved this towards the end, but the SEC has charged Sam Bankman-Fried with defrauding FTX investors. That is awesome. So it looks like we are getting a little bit of justice out of this whole debacle with FTX. Now, we will have to see what this actually means for Sam Bankman-Fried. Will he just pay a lump sum and go walking out the door? There's a good chance, you know, he has those connections with the higher ups. He probably has a lot of money still locked away, but this is definitely a step in the right direction, showing that no, not the whole system is corrupt, but still I think more is needed. Obviously more is needed for those that were affected. And it's actually crazy to hear that all over the crypto space we're hearing about an FTX 2.0. Sam hinted at it in the past that he wants to bring FTX back and make things right, which sounds great and all, but who in their damn right mind is ever going to trust putting their money on on FTX 2.0. I mean, you'd have to be an absolute idiot, or you'd have to have some sort of incentive to trust your money with a company like that again. So we will have to see what happens with that. I think that's absolutely insanity, but that is that. Moving on, more good news for the next year or so. The IRS has announced they are postponing requirements to show payments from apps of $600 or more. This was a big controversy when it first came about, because obviously Biden and the Biden administration has been about, taxing the rich and making sure the rich pay their fair share of taxes, yada, yada, yada. Then he comes out with this announcement saying that if you make any transaction over $600, whether it's Venmo, PayPal, Airbnb, whatever app it is, you need to report it to the IRS, which is absolute lunacy. And let's be real, doing that sort of tracking for every individual in the United States, and having all of these companies probably send out reports to individuals, is a big old mess, and it's going to be convoluted in the first place to get something like this passed and to have it run smoothly, but it's clearly just going to show that the IRS is going after the middle class and small fries. They don't care about the big dogs, and obviously the big dogs do know how to manipulate the system and use loopholes to their advantage. And personally, there's nothing wrong with that at all, in my opinion. If you are able to use loopholes in the system and pay the least amount of taxes as possible, God bless you. Everyone wants that ability. So there's in my opinion, when it comes to these billionaires, not paying any money in taxes, it's pretty silly to get mad at them, because they're just utilizing the system that's currently in place, and that's not their fault. I mean, anyone would want to save money, especially when you could save money and you could put that money towards much better things that can do good for people and their business and employ more people and all that jazz. So that's that news. That is being extended until the next year, 2024. So you won't have to report any transactions over $600 from mobile applications until then. Good news for sure. Now, obviously, that doesn't necessarily relate directly to cryptocurrencies. We are supposed to see some major broad regulation in the crypto space here in the not so distant future. Supposedly, it's supposed to be global regulation, so getting a wide variety of countries on board with some, most likely some blanket bullshit regulation to really make sure the crypto space isn't as decentralized as we want it to be, which is pretty terrifying and upsetting, to be honest. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. We knew this stuff was going to be inevitable, and as long as it doesn't directly affect the technological advancement of blockchain and crypto, we will be just fine. And realistically, in the grand scheme, it is for the best to at least help in the long run give crypto a little more better of a reputation than the average Joe thinks it has. Lastly, Crypto.com, they put out a phenomenal article sharing a handful of exciting data stats about the crypto space, and I wanted to share them with all of you guys because it gets me really excited for what we can expect here in the future. So for starters, Crypto.com did just break 80 million users, guys. 80 million users. That is absolutely insane, and I've said it many times in the past, and I'll say it again. I am confident Crypto.com will become the largest cryptocurrency exchange platform in the world. Everything they do aligns in that direction. From the get-go, they went the proper route with regulation all around the world. They are the most regulated exchange in the most countries, regulated in the most countries, and they're just doing it right. Now, obviously, right now, they do not have the most users compared to other platforms, but at the end of the day, people will slowly but surely begin to realize that Crypto.com has the better products to offer. They simply do, and you cannot tell me one other exchange that has better products or a better user interface, that's for sure, than Crypto.com at the moment. But aside from me promoting Crypto.com, they did put out a handful of statistics from this past year. So let me pull this up for you guys. So in 2022, the global cryptocurrency owners went from 303 million owners to 425 million. That is a pretty massive jump. And I have not looked into specifically how they collect this data. My assumption is they're collecting owners based on the amount of KYCs that are on a variety of different exchange platforms and on-ramps and stuff like that, because obviously there's a handful of people that are anonymous in the crypto space. But when you can collect that data, you can get a rough, broad idea as to how many people are actually utilizing cryptocurrency today. So 425 million, guys, that is honestly much higher than I would have thought it would be by this point in time, especially this past year has been a rough one, 2022. So to go from 303 million to 425 is pretty insane. And obviously, we're going to continue to see these first and second world countries really utilize cryptocurrency to the max day to day without even thinking about, making a profit in fiat currency. They're utilizing this currency to help themselves with inflation in their own countries, or they're utilizing cryptocurrency to be able to actually have a bank account and make transactions digitally. So that's personally what I'm most excited about with this technology. Yes, it's obviously great to make money on these assets, but being able to see it actually used in the real world and bettering people's lives is absolutely what Bitcoin and some of these other cryptos have been about since the get-go. I mean, El Salvador is a perfect example as to what Bitcoin is really meant to be used for. Aside from that, so in 2022, crypto owners increased by 39%, which is pretty massive. 20% of that was Bitcoin owners. So Bitcoin was the majority, about half, which is also great to see that people are prioritizing the bigger crypto assets, obviously specifically Bitcoin, and we're not all just flooding into shit coins left and right. And then there was a 263% increase in Ethereum owners. That is insane. So that essentially is going to show that the DeFi and NFT and metaverse world really popped off in 2022. We saw massive growth across the board, and we really saw people utilizing obviously Ethereum more than these other chains. And I think that will continue to be the case for many years to come, honestly. Obviously, Bitcoin it is honestly in its own lane compared to Ethereum, but Ethereum, I don't think it's really going to be overtaken by any of these other chains anytime soon. Lastly, like I said, Crypto.com did increase to 80 million users, huge accomplishment, and they're really working their way up quite quickly. Obviously, all of these promotions, these sponsorship promotions around the world, I'm sure do great, whether it was the World Cup, F1 racing. Obviously, we have the Crypto.com arena and their sponsorship with the UFC. So I think they're definitely doing it right. Obviously, let's hope they can keep their margins low, they can keep their revenue coming in, and we can continue to use them as a phenomenal platform in the future, and we don't have to worry about them turning into a FTX or Genesis or anything like that. That's all I have for you guys today. I would love to know your thoughts in the comments section below. And as always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next.